لو سألتني أو سألني أحدكم فقال كيف لي أن أحقق التقوى الوارد وصفها والكلام عنها في كلامنا المتقدم، أقول تحقيق التقوى للعبد أمر يسير لمن يسره الله له، أمر يسير لمن يسره الله له. وتحقيقها يكون كالتالي: أولا بتحقيق التوحيد لله جل وعلا، فتتعلم من التوحيد وأمور التوحيد ما يخلص لك هذا الاعتقاد لله جل وعز. وثانيا العلم، وهذا مبني على الأول، تحقيق العلم والتعلم، أن تتزود من العلم الشرعي قدر ما تستطيع، فتتعلم الحلال والحرام، تتعلم الحلال لتأتيه والطاعة لتأتيها، وتعرف الحرام لتنتهي عنه، وتعرف المعصية لتبتعد وتهرب منها. والأمر الثالث مجاهدة النفس في السر قبل العلانية، أقول في السر قبل العلانية. نعم، على تحقيق الإخلاص وتجريد الاتباع لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم، وغرس الخوف من الله جل وعز في النفس، وتعظيم الأمر والنهي. والأمر الرابع، وكلها كما قلنا مترابطة، صدق اللجوء إلى الله جل وعز، أن يعلمك ما ينفعك، وأن ينفعك بما علمك، وأن يرزقك علما ينفعك. فقد كان من هديه عليه الصلاة والسلام أن يدعو كما جاء في الحديث الحسن أنه قال: اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا، وانفعنا بما علمتنا، وارزقنا علما ينفعنا. كل هذا أيها الإخوة معين بإذن الله تعالى على تحقيق التقوى لله جل وعز. وانتبه، وأنا أنبه وأركز، فإن العبد قد يحرم الخير. أقول إن العبد قد يحرم الخير بسبب ذنب يعمله. لا تستهن بالمعاصي، لا تتهاون في أداء الطاعات، لا تستهين بالمعاصي وإن دقت، فمعظم النار من مستصغر الشرر. ولا تستقل من الطاعة ولو أن تلقى أخاك بوجه طلق، كما أخبر عليه الصلاة والسلام. فإن بعض الأمور قد يتعاظمها الإنسان أو يستقلها الإنسان وهي مهلكة. يقول الإمام ابن القيم رحمه الله: قد ذكر بعض أهل العلم أن رب ذنب أدخل صاحبه الجنة، ورب طاعة أدخلت صاحبها النار. كيف هذا؟ إذا ما أذنب العبد ذنبا فإنه لا يزال يتذكره فينيب ويستغفر ويبكي ويطرح بين يدي الله، يرى هذا الذنب أمام عينيه دائما، فلا يزيده ذلك إلا انكسارا وخوفا من الله وإجلالا لله، معظما لأمره جل وعز. كثير التوبة، نعم العبد إنه أواب رجاع. ورب طاعة يعملها الإنسان يتعاظمها وكأنه يمن على الله جل وعز بها، والعياذ بالله، فتورده والعياذ بالله جهنم، نسأل الله العافية والسلامة. يمنون عليك أن أسلموا، قل لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم، بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان. فإياك والمعاصي وإن دقت، انتبه، ولا تستقل من الطاعة شيئا، افعله. ما كما يقول إبراهيم التيمي رحمه الله: ما يضرك أن تراه في الآخرة فاتركه الآن، وما ترغب أن تراه في الآخرة فافعله الآن. كلمة مختصرة جامعة. ما الذي تريد أن تراه في الآخرة؟ طاعات وحسنات، فافعلها الآن. ما الذي يمنعك؟ لا شيء، لا حائل دونك ودونها من عذر شرعي مقبول. ما الذي يمنعك عن انتهاء من المعاصي؟ لا شيء، فانتهي، لأنك لا تريد أن تراها في الآخرة. يوم يجمعكم ليوم الجمع، ذلك يوم التغابن. انتبه، والإنسان على نفسه بصيرة ولو ألقى معاذيره. انتبه، الإنسان يدري من نفسه. إذا ما خلوت بمحارم الله انتبه أن تنتهكها، فلا تقل خلوت، ولكن قل علي رقيب، يعلم خائنة الأعين جل وعز وما تخفي الصدور سبحانه. فانتبه. يقول عبد الله بن مسعود: إني لأعلم الرجل ينسى العلم يتعلمه بالخطيئة يعملها. بالخطيئة يعملها، بالذنب يعمله. فنسأل الله جل وعز أن يبارك لنا ولكم في أعمالنا وأعمالنا وأوقاتنا، وأن يجعلنا وإياكم من المتقين، إنه جواد كريم. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم.
So our Sheikh, he mentioned, if one of you were to ask me, how then is it possible for me to actualize this taqwa? How can I carry this out? He mentioned that to carry out this taqwa is something that is easy for the one who Allah Azza wa Jalla has made it easy. And that is by following the points that are to come. First of them is that a person carries out and actualizes a tawheed. And that he learns that which is related to tawheed, that which he should be upon by way of his belief, related to the affair of the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal, singling Allah Azza wa Jal out in worship. That is firstly. Secondly, that a person carries out and learns and gains knowledge, studies, learns that which is halal, learns that which is haram upon him, learns the acts of obedience, learns those things that are haram to stay away from them, learns about sin in order to avoid that, and that he is one that studies and learns all of that in order to practice it and carry it out. And that he strives, thirdly, strives with himself in regards to carrying this out in private before in public. That he strives to be sincere upon that, learning, studying, carrying out those actions in private before he does so in public. For indeed, that when a person does so, he does so fearing for himself. When he leaves sin, he does so fearing for himself, and so he strives with himself in private before he does so in public. Fourthly, by sincerely returning to Allah and seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Allah to bless you with knowledge by way of which you will be able to act upon the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To bless you with knowledge that will aid you upon the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For indeed, and he mentioned the statement, he mentioned the dua of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he would supplicate to Allah saying, "Oh Allah, teach us that which benefits us, and benefit us with that which you teach us." And so that was from the dua of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he likewise would return to Allah for Allah to teach him, and make dua to Allah that Allah teaches him that which is beneficial to him, and that he benefits him by way of that which he has taught him. So all of that is from the affairs that aid a person upon the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our Shaykh then said, intabih, pay attention, be aware, be cautious, be cautioned, that a servant may be prevented from khair. It is possible that a person may be prevented from khair and from good because of a sin that he has carried out. So do not belittle or deem and look down upon anything or deem little any sin, because a person may be prevented from good and may be prevented from khair because of a sin that he has carried out. And he mentioned some lines of poetry in that regard, that the majority of fires begin on the basis of a small spark. The majority of great fires begin on the basis of a small spark. So do not deem little any sin, because indeed sin, ikhwan, are from the preventative factors of khair. He mentioned likewise, do not likewise look down upon good and acts of good. As the Messenger of Allah mentioned, وَلَوْ أَن تَلْقَى أَخَاكَ بِوَجْهٍ طَلْقٍ, even if it is to meet your brother with a smiling face, do not look down upon any act of khair and any act of good. And he mentioned a statement, and likewise Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned, narrating from some of the people of knowledge in his book Wabil al-Sayyib, he mentioned, it is possible that a person may commit a sin and it enters him into Jannah. And it is possible for a person to carry out an act of good, a righteous action, and it enters him into the hellfire. And in order to explain that, he continues by mentioning that it is possible that a person carries out a sin, and because of that sin, he continues to make tawbah to Allah, to be regretful, to be repentant, to turn to Allah Azza wa Jal, to increase in acts of good, and because of it he enters into Jannah. And that Allah Azza wa Jal mentions, describing some of the prophets, نِعْمَ الْعَبْدِ إِنَّهُ أَوَّابٌ. He was a blessed servant, for verily he was awwab, yani he was one that constantly turned to Allah, repenting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so here he mentioned it is possible that a person may commit a righteous or a sin, and that sin may be the cause of him entering Jannah. And on a similar token, it is possible that a person could carry out a good act, and that act is a reason for that person to enter the hellfire. He mentioned the statement of Allah, يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ أَنْ أَسْلَمُوا, that they constantly return to you, speaking and mentioning about the fact that they have embraced. This is, look what I have done, I've embraced. So they praising themselves, mentioning that which is related to their Islam. So Allah Azza wa Jal rebuked them for that, for this man that they did to the Messenger of Allah about the fact that they have embraced. Praising themselves about the fact that they have done this action and turning to the Messenger of Allah in that regard. So a person may carry out a righteous action, and on the basis of that righteous action, he continues to be arrogant on the basis of it and be full of himself because of it, and thus that lead to him entering the hellfire. So be aware, our Shaykh mentioned, إِيَّاكَ وَالْمَعَاصِي. Be aware of sin. Be aware of sinning, no matter how small those sins are. He mentioned the statement likewise of Ibrahim, that Imam from amongst the Tabi'een, Ibrahim al-Taymi, who mentions, مَا يَضُرُّكَ, those things that will harm you, or you would dislike to see in the hereafter. Those things from your own actions that you would dislike to see in the hereafter, then leave it now. And those things that you would love to see from amongst your own actions in the hereafter, then perform it now. Those things that you would dislike to see enumerated amongst your scroll of deeds, what prevents you from stopping it now? And those things that you would like to see present within your scroll of deeds in the hereafter, what is it that's preventing you from performing that now? And so he mentioned likewise the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the day that Allah Azza wa Jal will gather you together for a day of gathering, that is the day of Taghabun. That is a day of Taghabun, the day of a day that every individual will see his place and will see exactly where he is. And so he mentioned likewise, reminding us of the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it is He who knows the kha'inatul a'yun, or that glance that a person steals, that Allah Azza wa Jalla, the one that knows everything that is large and small. And similarly, you mentioned the statement of Ibn Mas'ud, that indeed I know of a person, or I know a person may possibly lose out on knowledge on the basis, or forget knowledge on the basis of sin that he has performed.